Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Marche, the webinar director at Advice Chaser. Before we introduce our guests and get started, I do need to do a bit of legal housekeeping. Advice Chaser, the host of this webinar, is not a registered investment advisor. We cannot and do not give financial advice. Today's presentation is for educational purposes only and cannot be considered advice for any person's individual situation. Advice Chaser regularly hosts informative webinars, such as this one, featuring a variety of knowledgeable professionals, many of whom are licensed advisors. Any opinions, ideas, jokes, or principles expressed by presenters are their own, and however true, funny, or interesting, are not endorsed by Advice Chaser. Please do not act on the information you hear today without consulting a qualified financial professional. And Michael, if you can move to the next slide here. We're thrilled to bring you this educational presentation today. Attendees are muted, but we encourage you to ask questions using the chat box, and the presenters will answer those queries during or after the webinar today as appropriate. If you ask a question in the chat box and we don't have a chance to get to it, go ahead and leave your phone number as well, and we'll make sure someone reaches out to you after today's event to make sure that question gets answered. We want this experience to be as educational as possible. Please don't hesitate to reach out for a clarification or expansion of the material. So I'd love to introduce you to today's speakers. Can we go to the next slide there? Our moderators today are with Wealth Plan Partners, which works diligently to earn a reputation of excellence and reliability when facilitating the coordination of employee benefits programs for their business owners. Their comprehensive and professional approach, driven by their team's high level of integrity and service, is what their clients have come to expect. Their client-centric process involves one-on-one attention, long-term visioning, and ongoing support from appropriate members of their team every step of the way. They developed this practice in response to decades of conversations with their business owners who may not have the time, desire, or expertise to manage these aspects of their business. Many of their clients have previously worked with competent advisors who provide them a certain level of service. However, a lack of coordination amongst existing benefit programs and a business owner's desire to elevate the offering to their employees has allowed them to deliver significant value when implementing their services. So here's a little bit about each of our moderators. David Grano is a financial planner with Wealth Plan Partners. David's multifaceted experience allows him to address clients' financial needs in a customized way, taking into consideration a multitude of available options. Prior to joining Wealth Plan Partners, David was a partner with a Cleveland-based boutique wealth management firm. He's a registered representative and investment advisor representative with Lincoln Financial Advisors Corporation. His experience also includes working in the mergers and acquisitions department of McDonald Investments and as a market research associate, specializing in earning forecasting and equity analysis. David earned a BA in economics from Boston University and an MBA from Case Western Reserve University's Weatherhead School of Management. And our second moderator today is August Gus Galinsky, who spent 2 years polishing his financial planning skills in Lincoln Financial Group's nationally recognized planning department prior to joining the Wealth Plan Partners in 2013. As a financial planner, he facilitates the production of the comprehensive financial plans at Wealth Plan Partners and maintains the wealth management system and ensures that young professionals and families in the area are taking the appropriate steps towards having understanding of all the components that make up their comprehensive financial plan. Gus earned a BA in finance from Alfred University in December of 2009, where he served as treasurer and president of the Student Managed Investment Fund. And if I could just have David and Gus, if you can just go ahead and say hello so we can see your faces. I know when I'm speaking, the video only shows me.
Hello, everyone, and Marche, thank you for the introduction.
Yeah, it was wonderful, Marche. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm excited. We've gotten to introduce our presenter. And Michael, if I say anything wrong, please let me know.
Sure.
Michael Rinaldi is a regional sales director at Lincoln Financial Distributors, specializing in retirement plans. Michael has more than 17 years of experience in the financial services industry. Prior to joining Lincoln, he served as a regional sales director at Mass Mutual Retirement Services in Cleveland. Michael received a Master of Business Administration degree from the University of Dayton in Dayton, Ohio, and a Bachelor of Science degree in marketing from the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. He received an executive certificate in financial planning from John Carroll University at University Heights, Ohio, and is a certified employee benefit specialist, as well as an accredited pension representative. In addition, he holds FINRA Series 6 and life, accident, and health and variable insurance licenses. All right, well, that was a lot of words, but you can see we have some expertise here, and we're excited to learn from them. And so, Michael, I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to you, and excited to hear what you have to bring to us.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Marche, for the great introduction. Hello, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're at. Again, my name is Mike Rinaldi. Specifically within financial planning, I'm a retirement plan specialist, and I'm based over in Cleveland, Ohio. And pretty much for what I do is I cover the state of Ohio. So what we're going to cover today is we're going to talk about what financial wellness is and why it's important. Two, we're going to look at financial wellness through the eyes of the employee. And then third, we're going to look at implications to the employers. And last, we'll wrap up with some key takeaways for all of you. So that's going to be our agenda for today. So to start out, we're going to talk about financial wellness, what we believe it means, and why it's important. So, financial wellness can mean different things to different people. It's kind of become a buzzword within the financial services area, and specifically in the retirement plan space. It loosely covers many different financial planning topics. Here is how we think of financial wellness at the firm I work for, Lincoln Financial. There are three main critical elements to a true holistic financial wellness program. There's the objective component, number one, or the science and numbers part. You've probably seen some commercials before where, people walk around with a number over their head, that's their number, which is great. It's very important. We're going to talk about how you have to have those numbers. But there's also a subjective part to financial wellness that takes into account the participants' emotions. Like we all know, emotions can spur actions, and you got to recognize that people are unique and different. Dispositions are different, investor profiles are different, their goals are different. So we need to take into account both the objective, the numbers part, and then also the subjective part when talking about financial wellness. Two, for a financial wellness program to be impactful, we believe it has to be comprehensive. It's not just what's your number, but we need to look at the total picture of that employee. To reach financial well-being, people need to have the financial stability to withstand the financial shock and have control over their day-to-day finances. So it's not just what's your number, it's got to be holistic. And then the third part of a financial wellness program, it needs to be tracked and measured on an ongoing basis. It's not a one and done thing. I use the analogy, if you're going to try to sail a ship from Portugal to a port in Baltimore, Maryland, and you just started to sail and you didn't take check on where you're at on the trip. If you were just 1 degree off or half a degree off without taking those periodic check-ins, you might not even hit the coast of Florida. So for a financial wellness program, you need to have the periodic checks and measures to make sure that you're on track. Check up on an ongoing basis to make sure the progress is going. Because if you don't check into it, it could lead to a big miss. So what does the data tell us? And the data could be a powerful thing if we take a look at it. And unfortunately, at first glance, the data can be startling. 17% of employees, on these surveys were financially vulnerable. 54% were only financially coping, while only 29% were financially healthy. So that means, 7 out of 10 employees are struggling with some aspect of financial health and had some concern either over their spending, their savings, their borrowing, or their planning. And, if you look at the bottom, you can see the struggle cuts across all demographics of the workforce, from the baby boomers right down to the Generation Z. The bottom line is no demographic is immune. It's hitting all segments of the workforce. If you look at the lower left-hand corner there, for employees who save less than $1,000, not surprisingly, the Generation Z, they have the highest amount where they don't have $1,000 saved for an emergency if they had an emergency. And you can see the other numbers. Then if you look on the right for student loan examples, this one was surprising to me. You can see the baby boomers are still struggling with some of the student debt that they have. And then it goes down to the Generation Z. So no demographic was immune to COVID. It hit all segments of all demographic segments of the workforce. So then why financial wellness? And most importantly, why now? We have 4 key reasons here for why financial wellness and why now to have discussions with employees and with the employers. Number one, it's an underserved market. Not all people have access to financial planning or know how to access it. And with some of the tools we're going to talk about, it's a way to bring financial type planning to the masses in an efficient way with a sole business owner or a sole practitioner. 2, the cost and evolution of benefits. What we know, with a lot of the studies that we've seen, especially concerning with employers, that we know that retirement benefits are a top 3 driver of employee satisfaction. So it's a real important, employees are thinking about retirement benefits. The data and research, the data tells us that having a financially healthy employee base leads to 1, a higher engaged workforce, 2, higher productivity, and 3, leads to lower healthcare costs. And I'm going to touch on lower healthcare costs in a slide or 2. And it's a very competitive job market out there. In a competitive low unemployment environment, increasing need to track and retain talent. So these type of programs, retain and get people hired on. I was reading an article about a week or 2 about a job fair that was going to be happening in Atlantic City. It was for a casino out there. This casino needed to fill 250 good paying jobs, really good jobs. They rented a big convention center, they staffed it up, they advertised it, they got it ready to go. Do you know how many people showed up? Only 20. So we're hearing a lot about how hard to find good employees, and sometimes these financial wellness programs can help you with that.
Hey, Mike, before we move on real quick, understanding all of those aspects, have you found that it might even be unique or beneficial for a firm to offer a comprehensive kind of package someplace for employees to go for investment questions, financial planning questions, insurance questions, that being life, health, and disability? Do you find that that's often the case or not so much?
No, I do. I see some of the employers that are doing real well. They don't have a ton of different, advisors or people in there offering different products. Maybe one advisor will offer, most of the things that there's, on the investment side, college savings plan, the 401k. With the tools that we're going to talk about here, it kind of aggregates that, brings it all together. But it's really nice for those employees. They sit with one person that can look at their total financial plan with the different components that would go into it. So yeah, it is nice for an employer to work with one provider for a lot of different products with that. So we talked about the landscape, why wellness, why now? Now let's get into the employees' minds and what they're thinking about today. In a word, unfortunately, they're worried, but I'm also going to give you some good news as well. First, let's start by looking at what the employees are worried about. I don't think a lot of these things I'm going to go over here are a shock about what you're going to see. But let's look at the top 5 concerns for employees as a result of COVID. Number 1, loss of income due to layoffs or losing their job. That was a big concern, as companies downsize. Number two, not having enough emergency savings, no rainy day fund in case they ran into some problems. We showed you on a slide, 30% of the people have less than $1,000 saved. Number three, not being able to cover basic expenses like housing, food, water, utilities, etc. Four, not being able to save for retirement. And then five, not being able to keep up with debt payments. So if you look at these top five, they all have one thing in common. They all speak to basic needs. We're not talking about the wants here anymore. We're talking about basic needs. I know I used to see a lot of the commercials where you had the couple, when they got to retirement, they're talking to their advisor, they want to get a vineyard, buy a vineyard, they're going to travel over in Europe, that was the big plan. And, dreams are good, some people would get there, but, that's not the case now from what we're seeing with some of these studies. We're back to the basic needs, which can be a good thing where the employees are, thinking about what's important now and not just some of the dreams that they have.
And Mike, I would just add here, our firm meets on average with say 1,500 to 2,000, participants, in 401k plans. And, the three basic questions that come up are, am I saving enough money? Am I invested properly? And, when can I retire? Typically they're not finding the tools within their 401k platforms to help them answer those questions. And they kind of fall into basic needs as well. So now you're starting to see, 401k providers provide these tools through their platforms, but we're finding that, plan participants just don't know how to use those tools. So I think education and how to bring their personal situation into what you're going to discuss going forward, it becomes very important.
Yeah, great point. I mean, it's not just about the technology, it's about having somebody that can help them, explain it to them, or having a good advisor, part of the program with the education. And that's what we are going to talk about. So make sure I'm on the right side. So however, there is one positive is that clients are changing the way they're looking things overall. Three key takeaways, almost 70% of employees coming out of this have changed how they look at their lifestyle and how they view their monthly spending. I see this as a positive thing as we're looking about, they're starting to look at what's really important. And if you look at some of the numbers we have, I realize it's important to live a simpler lifestyle and reduce monthly spending. So there were some positive effects maybe of, being virtual and, with COVID. I've changed the way I envision my retirement. At least now they're, I think they're thinking about retirement, it's becoming top of their mind. And they're thinking differently about planning for their financial future. So just the mere fact that 8 out of 10 are thinking about planning for a financial future is a good thing. The mindset has changed, and that's also a good thing that we can expand on. The key, however, are these new ways of thinking actually changing the behavior of the employees. It's great they're thinking about it, but let's hope they're taking action on it. In Lincoln's own proprietary studies, what you see here, we ask clients which actions you would like to take as a result of COVID. Here are the top three that we came across. Save more retirement, save more for retirement. That's a positive. 2, adding to emergency savings, a positive. 3, they want to either create or revise a budget, another great thing. So are the top 3 that I mentioned, do they speak to the basic needs or wants? Again, they're going back to the basics, not just thinking about their wants. It's a good thing to level set with that. Now let's see the worker sentiments of what they think about financial wellness and the concept of financial wellness. 63% say it's important for employers to offer the program, and over 30% think it should be offered, but it's not a must. The main point for this slide is only 3% of employees think that employers shouldn't worry about financial wellness programs at all. To put it another way, 97% of employees think that it's important for their employer to offer. The employees are asking for it. It's become an important thing. Is there merit for plan sponsors, employers to take more time to think about wellness? In a word, yes. When you almost have 10 out of 10 employees asking for it, according to some of these studies. As a result of COVID, is it more important for my employer to provide resources and tools to help improve my Financial health, around 67%. My mental health, around the same 67%, or the physical health, again, in the 60s. The main point here is that there's a marginal difference between all three. It's hard to separate any of these three things. They're all important. They're all interconnected. If an employee is having financial health concerns, that could lead to sleepless nights. It could lead to stress that could, hurt their mental health or their physical health, and, lead to bad performance at work. The same with physical health could, hurt your financial health. So they're all interconnected. To have a good, program, you want to look at all these three things to help the employees. So we've covered wellness, and we've talked about it from the employee's perspective. Now let's talk about the implications and considerations for the employer. What do they need to be thinking about after we think about what we've just learned? First, let's talk about the tangible impacts that financial stress has on the workplace. Over half of Americans say that financial stress has a negative impact on their lives, affecting either their personal life or their performance at work, or both. Let's dig a little deeper and look at specifically of what that impact entails. It affects their ability to concentrate at work, their ability to reach their work goals, the quality of work that they do. It affects that. Here's a big one, the way they treat others at work, and then the ability to work to meet work deadlines. So we'd be missing a huge takeaway on this slide is that financial stress, could be an impact to the employee's self, but it's also to the others. You could be at a company where a significant percent of the employees are doing great, but others are not doing so well. And, it could bring down those employees that are doing well. Somebody's not doing their work that they rely on. They have a bad attitude. It could be a trickle over effect to others in other immeasurable ways with those employees that are not doing well with their financial health. So what are the measurable impacts? I'm going to focus on the left-hand side of this slide when we look at the financial health and financial issues only. And, if we look at them, if they're not doing well with their finances or financial health, days lost to being absent and being present go up. 2, employees are highly engaged, that are highly engaged go down. 3, anxiety and stress goes up. And then 4, planning to work past the age of 70 goes up because they're not on track for retirement. So let's put on the CFO hat for a minute, or the CEO, the financial guy. What's the first thing that goes through your mind with more employees working past the age of 70? Higher healthcare costs. They're going to go up. We all have different issues as we get older. It's just part of getting older. So the medical bills will go up and everything, which could be a big impact to the bottom line for an employer. So if they have good financial health programs and they're tracking it, employers are getting to a good spot to get retirement, you can transition them into retirement with dignity, and they don't have to keep working in the workforce. So we've heard what yes.
Real quick, so with your CFO hat on, right? If we added life insurance and disability insurance and specific financial planning or a specific financial planning resource, do you think those numbers would look even more attractive?
Oh, absolutely. Because then you're doing a more holistic plan for them. Life insurance, some of the other products that you mentioned. It's not just the 401k or the retirement plan. We'll get them all more comfortable to transition into retirement.
Right.
So
okay.
Yeah, all the different products, and they need somebody that can explain all that to them. So we've heard what the employees are saying. What are the employers saying? What are the top 3 priorities from an employer's perspective? I'm going to focus on the left-hand side. That's what I focus on in what I do with 401ks and 403b plans, the small market, under 25 million in assets. But let's look at the top 3 employer priorities. Number 1, 45% say improving overall financial wellness to employees. That's number 1. Number 2, maximizing participant savings. 3rd, maintaining a competitive retirement benefit. So when you look at the top three priorities, you were looking at the three principles of financial wellness. The conversation has shifted. Within the retirement plan space, I've been doing this, really, about 20 years now. The traditional conversation's always been about, let's review the plan costs. Let's look at the funds in the plan, if we could review those. So let's add a lifetime income option, which are all very important. You want to review the plan, make sure it's in a good spot, but things are changing. The conversation has shifted. So employees we need to change the conversation, with the employees and the employers. We need to talk about other things, and that's why we're talking about financial wellness now. Now we're going to get into some employer actions. What specifically are the actions that need to take place? If you look at the current type of financial wellness offerings that are out there, most of them are product-based. It's an online program, or it's a tool that they access by themselves. But only a third have education-based, with education, goal setting, savings. So the main point here is that's where the opportunity lies. 2/3 need to shift the conversation over to education-based goal setting, savings, personal coaching, more than just relying on the product solutions, just offering it to them. They might not ever see it. And that's where we're going to get to next, and where the opportunity lies. And that's where it helps to have a good financial advisor that could talk to the employees about looking at the different tools and pulling it all together for them. So I'm going to focus on that red box on there. That's where we think at my firm, we think the market is going, in the red box on the slide. Employees need personalized financial counseling, coaching, planning. We need to be ready to have this conversation with the employees. Again, tuition reimbursement programs, discount programs are all important, but it's that, the live coaching, counseling, planning is where the conversation needs to focus to increase the overall financial wellness experience. So what do plan sponsors say about how wellness programs have to align with their goals and objectives? Across employers, the goal of wellness initiatives are defined in different ways. Now let's look at the top four in this slide. Number one, having access to assistance and resources that enable good financial decisions. Number two, being financially secure overall. Three, being equipped to achieve retirement security through planning and savings. And four, being proactive about financial awareness, planning, and goals. Again, it's kind of my theme here in these last few slides. Would you agree that those top four goals of employers align with a core financial wellness program? And, I think that they do. So what steps have employers taken to understand their employees, with their wellness needs? And, looking at this chart here, 52% of surveyed employees, like a Survey Monkey, asked them some questions. 38% have actually held employee focus groups, like have live chats to see what's important. And, 32% have conducted wellness needs assessments. But only 23% are implementing a financial well-being score or metrics. This is where, I'm going to talk about where more needs to be done here, where metrics are lacking. It's great, you can look at it and you do it, but you need to track yourself over time. It's a solid start. Employers are starting to take the steps to engage employees, but more needs to be done with individual scores and metrics. Now let's talk about metrics. That is where the employers are lacking. The success of programs need the offerings to include scores and metrics. That's what we're hearing, from the employees, and the employers. 75% of employees are satisfied with benefit packages where there is a financial well-being score or metric. When we can actually see the number, they put the work in, they listen to the programs, answer questions. It really boosts their satisfaction. And only 57% are very satisfied without a score. So it goes up when they start to be able to track it. Here's some examples of useful well-being scores, for the employer and for the employee. The percent of the employees, this be an employer thing, that are actually using the tools. There needs to be a way to track that and say, hey, yeah, I had 50, 60% of my employees use the tool. We'd like to get that up to 70%. The percent of workers that have actually done some sort of baseline budgeting, that'd be an important one. Who's actually, doing a budget, to make sure they're on track. And then income replacement ratios are 75% of my employees on track to have an 80% income replacement ratio when they retire. That's a great number for an employee to know. Hey, I'm going to get there. I'm going to have 80% of my pre-retirement income. And, then the employers could aggregate that into a total number for their company with certain programs that are out there. Those are the types of scores and metrics that if an employer has them in place and shares with their employees, they really raise the level of satisfaction of those employees. They see things are being tracked.
Mike, that column there, the financial wellness benefits being offered with the, what does that say, 6 or more offerings is a rather high percentage. Do you find that often there are group college education or just educational savings programs implemented? Or might that be one more that could be tagged in that group? But we've only come across maybe 1 or 2 that actually have a group plan in place already. I didn't know if you would come across in your travels anymore.
Yeah, you're talking about like group educational plans, like
Group 529 plans. Yes.
Yeah. I don't see them that much. I know they're very important. I see all the 401ks. I hear about them. Maybe when you get to some of the bigger employers, they offer something like that. We're talking 1,000 employees. But in the small plan market where I operate, that'd be a perfect other program or seminar to show them how, hey, yes, we have your retirement savings. That's for retirement. But hey, you got some kids, let's save in that and have a seminar just focused on that and why that's important to them. So that'd be another product offering for them. So things to consider. Let's get into some of the tactical and practical takeaways for a successful wellness program. So for a plan sponsor, it always starts with preparation and planning. Sometimes it's a lot of work to start one of these programs, but if you do it right and you track it and put some prep time in, they can really work out. Here are 5 key steps that you can all be taken to plan and prepare for a successful financial wellness program. Number 1, understand your workforce. You can do assessments, surveys, focus groups, a mixture of all 3. There's not one size fits all for that. And just by, asking your employees, talking to them about this, there's 3 valuable takeaways for an employer. Number 1, the employees know you care. Number 2, they feel valued. And number 3, you're demonstrating that you have a vested interest in their future. And, I don't know about you, but, I love working for an employer where, I know they care, they're looking out for me, and they're offering these types of programs. And, in today's job market, like we're talking about, it could be a great retention tool. Number 2, take the time to define success and key performance indicators. The great thing about some wellness programs is they're built for you. There's prepackaged products that are out there. They'll do it all for you within the retirement plan. They'll have the assessment for a participant. They'll give them a score. Hey, if you save a little bit more, you do this. Here's how your score will increase. Actionable guidance for a participant. Like, okay, they answer some questions about themselves. The program will come back to them and say, here's some actionable guidance or things that you could be doing. Count aggregation, Gus, this kind of goes in line with what you're talking about, having different products, talk about them, but there's programs that'll tie them all together, to give an overall picture of how they're doing with debt, savings, budgeting, things like that. Number 3, prioritize timeline and phase in your program and key success metrics. Again, the important process, put together a program or find one that you can follow a good process on. Identify internal champions and advocates. The power of peer influence. If you have some employees that are, really into it, they're very vocal, get them out in front of the people, a peer influence can help. And then build in feedback loops to ensure you stay on track. I talked about that, a sailing analogy. You want to check in, make sure the program's going well. small discrepancies can lead to a big miss. Okay, adoption engagement. The keys for success is going to be in the execution. Communication is key. Do a surround sound approach. We have a lot of different channels which we communicate today, in person, having a good financial advisor that can easily explain it to the employees. Digital, emails, different things they can look at there, virtual, like we're doing here today. I think that's become a big a part of how a lot of businesses are operating nowadays. You can have online seminars and things like that for them. Number two, for adoption engagement, consistency of messaging. Don't make it a one and done process again. You need to commit and reinforce it along the way. Quarterly reminders or emails or having some meetings on it. Encourage participation. Don't underestimate the importance of a top-down approach. You got the C-suite executives, you need them to buy into it. Talk to their middle managers, get their support, make sure they're doing it, and then, pass it down to the employees. So it's kind of an all hands on deck approach when you roll out one of these programs. Incentives, something as simple as a $5 coffee card, to attend a wellness presentation, to get them in there. I know with my company, with our program, we have, if I do so many activities in a quarter, I get a quarterly payment for doing them. So, that helps me say, I got to get a few more activities in this quarter. And then again, build feedback loops to ensure you stay on track. Small discrepancies can lead to a big miss. So that's about all I had with the presentation so far. I guess we're in the question and answering period. Do we have any questions?
I believe I have gathered some questions for you, David and Gus, so if you can go ahead and address those.
Sure, I'll read the first one out here. The first question, you said that retirement plans and financial wellness plans help retain employees. What about attracting them? Mike, if you don't mind, you can
Yeah, go for that.
follow this up. But yes, they certainly help retain the employees, and they certainly help attract them more and more when our professional clients, their individual clients, our family clients, when they go out job searching, if that's the position that they're in, we will do an analysis for them and help them look through those different employee benefits programs to see what it means to them, what it means to their financial planning over the course of their lifetime. And they're able then to make decisions or additional considerations based on that information as well.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, and it's a big part of hiring nowadays. What do you have for your retirement plan? Do you have money that goes into it? And you can play up a whole financial wellness program too to attract people.
And the next question is, who typically administers or oversees the program at the company? HR. I would say they can oversee it, but if you get the right advisors involved, the record keeper, third party administrator, and a financial advisor on the platform, they should be really bringing these programs to you and putting together ways to incorporate these programs within your existing offerings. So really the burden doesn't fall on the plan sponsor. It really should fall on the advisors that are involved with the plan. And
then the second one there, what does an optimal financial wellness program at a company typically look like? That goes back to the question that I had for Mike about the different amount of offerings. Essentially, and the more that you could offer an employee, the better it would be for them. And maybe a one spot to go and ask questions of even lends to its more value. But having a life insurance program in place, a group program, having a disability insurance program, having a resource for them to go ask financial planning questions, having that educational 529 plan set up. And then what Mike has been talking about this whole time is having this financial wellness tool, maybe an aggregator for them to go in to compile all that information so they could see it all for themselves. Many times we find Typically, clients haven't done that for themselves, and when they do, it opens their eyes, helps them ask additional questions, or helps them make additional observations, again, or considerations for themselves as to what they need to do to better their financial situation.
Next question is, how can I encourage my employees to take part in an employee financial wellness program once it's implemented? We find, since we deal with different platforms, a lot of record keepers have already implemented these programs and they're available through the platform. It's just the plan participants don't know how to use it. So the education is key. And what we like to do is go into companies and actually, in a group setting, educate them on these programs and how they're available through typically the websites. And then what we'll do is when we do our individual participant meetings, we personalize the experience and, showing them, hey, how do you take your personal information and input it into those systems to use it? So again, it goes back to education and having the right advisors communicate, how these programs work.
And then, Mike, what I'm seeing for you is what feedback tools are good to implement to see how on track you are with your financial wellness program.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I just think, I guess the product that we're offering and the products that I've seen out there in the marketplace, they pretty much do it for you. They define, the 8 performance indicators that they want to track. They give you a score on each of those 8, and then they roll it up into one. And, again, you could input all the different types of assets that you have. You could put in the Social Security that you have, press a button and say, look, if I just save 1% more in my 401k, what that'll equate to getting to be on track for retirement and having the appropriate income replacement ratios. So, there's some good package programs out there, but just having them by yourself, it doesn't work because they might never access it. So you have to have a good advisor and you have to have the plan sponsor to help promote it.
Well, I think that's about all the time we have for questions. Thank you so much. Oh, we do have one more. So this is a question that just came in. I want to make sure to address this. Most employers would offer education years ago, but not so much now. How do you as an employee provide a hint to your employer that this would be a good thing to offer?
You guys want that one?
Well, I think just you got to go in and ask. I mean, now that you're aware that these programs exist, if it's not being offered through your current platform, talk to your HR department, talk to the person who's responsible for that employee benefit, and just, ask them to look into it if it's not available on the platform.
Thank you so much. I'm glad we got that last question in. So on behalf of Advice Chaser, I want to thank our speakers for being here today. I want to thank our attendees for attending. Look for an email soon for a replay of this event. And you're welcome to share that with friends and family. And if your employer is interested in that, I'm sure this would be good information for them too. And hopefully we've had some employers that want this information who are here today as well. Well, here at Advice Chaser, we're all about helping you find a financial advisor who's a great fit for your life, your financial questions, including questions about your company and how you administer financial services through that. Our matching service is free to you, and every one of our advisor partners has committed to offer a free initial consultation to anyone we introduce them to. Find out more by going to advicechaser.com and clicking on the link to find an advisor. Once again, from Advice Chaser, thank you so much for coming, and we will see you at another webinar soon. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Right.